When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not distracted, not scrolling, not chasing, but present. You wake up and feel it immediately. The fog, the heaviness, the quiet voice that whispers, "Why can't I just get it together?" You call it lack of motivation, but deep down, you know it's something else. It's not that you don't want to move forward, it's that you can't hear yourself anymore. There's too much noise, too many voices, too much input drowning out your own. You've been overstimulated into stillness, numbed by everything that promises to wake you up but only leaves you more tired. Every day, you flood your mind with things that demand your attention, your reaction, your emotion. You're always responding, never creating. You scroll, you consume, you compare, and you confuse that constant movement for progress. But it's not progress, it's paralysis. Your brain isn't lazy, it's exhausted. You've been feeding it a diet of empty energy, chasing small hits of dopamine that disappear before you even notice them. You're trying to light a fire with wet matches, and then you wonder why the flame won't catch. The truth is, you were never meant to live like this. The human mind was built for stillness, for space, for silence that lets thought breathe. But we've replaced that silence with constant stimulation, tiny bursts of novelty that trick us into feeling alive for a second, then leave us emptier than before. You're not unmotivated, you're overstimulated to the point where your mind can't feel excitement anymore. You've been so overloaded that calm feels boring and boredom feels unbearable. But it's in that boredom, that quiet space you keep running from, where your real power lives. Think about it. When was the last time you sat with your thoughts long enough to understand them, not distract yourself from them, but actually listen? Most people don't. They fill every gap with sound, every silence with scrolling, every pause with something new. And yet, that silence you avoid, it's not your enemy, it's your compass. It's the only place where motivation can grow naturally, not forced, not manufactured, but born from clarity. Because clarity doesn't come from consuming more. It comes from consuming less. You've been chasing stimulation, thinking it would bring you inspiration, but stimulation is cheap. It fades. Inspiration is earned. It arrives when the noise fades away. You can't feel driven when you're drowning in data, when your attention is scattered across 1,000 tiny screens, when your emotions are constantly being pulled in 10 different directions. That's not living. That's surviving with your senses hijacked. And deep down, you feel it. The restlessness, the lack of focus, the dull ache that comes from being busy but going nowhere. But here's the shift. Your motivation isn't gone, it's buried. Under every tab, every notification, every mindless scroll, it's there waiting. It's quiet because it's been ignored. But the moment you start to remove the noise, even for a moment, it stirs. The silence you've avoided starts to reveal something, your thoughts, your values, your direction. You begin to notice what truly matters, what actually excites you, what deserves your energy. And that realization, that rediscovery, becomes the spark you've been chasing all along. The first time you unplug, it feels uncomfortable. Your brain will scream for distraction. It will crave the rush of noise, the flood of stimulation it's been trained to expect. But if you push through that discomfort, something incredible happens. You start to feel peace. You start to think clearly again. You start to want things, not because they're pushed on you, but because they come from within. That's real motivation. That's real life. The world will keep trying to drown you in more, but the power to rise comes from less noise, less distraction, less comparison. What's left is you, and that's enough. You don't need another app, another plan, another external push. You need stillness. You need space to feel again. You need silence to remember what your own voice sounds like. Because when the noise stops, your truth gets louder. The energy returns. The drive awakens. And suddenly, you're not dragging yourself forward anymore. You're pulled by purpose. You're not unmotivated. You're overstimulated. But the moment you choose peace over noise, presence over distraction, clarity over chaos, You'll remember something the world made you forget. You were never meant to chase motivation. You were meant to create it. You've spent so long searching for answers outside yourself that you've forgotten the power that's been sitting quietly within you all along. Every scroll, every click, every new piece of information was supposed to fill the void, but all it did was make it deeper. The truth is, the world profits off your distraction. It feeds on your divided attention, on your endless consumption, on your need to feel busy even when you're not moving anywhere. But you are not meant to be a prisoner of constant input. You are meant to build something out of silence, to shape your life from a place of stillness, not chaos. You've just forgotten how to listen to the quiet because you've mistaken it for emptiness. But stillness isn't empty. It's alive. It's the space where your mind finally exhales. It's where your thoughts stop fighting for control and start working together. It's where the best parts of you, the creative, the focused, the resilient, finally come to the surface. The reason you feel stuck isn't because you're broken, but because your mind hasn't had room to breathe. You've been sprinting in circles, chasing the next spark, without realizing that sparks can't exist without darkness. That's where true ignition begins. In the still, in the slow, in the unseen. You say you want motivation, but motivation is a byproduct of meaning. And meaning doesn't come from more noise. It comes from the moments that scare you most, the moments when you sit alone with yourself. That's where clarity begins to rise. The discomfort you feel when you disconnect isn't weakness. It's withdrawal from the chaos that's been numbing your soul. Your mind is detoxing from overstimulation, shedding the layers of artificial urgency it's been buried under. Don't run from that feeling. Lean into it. That pain is the proof that something real is waking up inside you. Because beneath all the noise, there's a voice that's been waiting for you. A voice that doesn't shout, but whispers. It doesn't beg for attention, it commands it. It's the voice that says, you were made for more. Not in the way the world defines more, but in the way your soul does. More peace, more presence, more purpose. The kind that can't be found in endless motion, but in intentional action. You don't need another motivational quote or a perfect morning routine. You need to get quiet enough to hear your truth and brave enough to act on it. That's where everything changes. Every time you choose silence over distraction, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every moment you resist the urge to reach for the next thing, you build strength. You're not losing out by unplugging, you're gaining control over your mind again. The ability to focus is your greatest weapon in a world addicted to noise. And when you master your focus, you master your life. Because the person who can be alone with their thoughts without fear, that person can do anything. They're no longer controlled by impulse or fear or comparison. They act with intention. They move with purpose. They rise with clarity. The world wants you reactive, but you were born to be deliberate. You were not built to drift aimlessly through waves of stimulation. You were built to command the current. Every time you quiet the noise, you strengthen your ability to choose what matters, to create, to feel, to lead yourself instead of being led. You spent years chasing that burst of energy, that perfect moment to begin. But the truth is, it starts the moment you stop running. The moment you decide that silence isn't scary but sacred. That peace isn't passive but powerful. You're not here to consume, you're here to create. You're not here to numb, you're here to awaken. And when you finally allow yourself to slow down, to disconnect, to breathe, the world around you doesn't shrink, it expands. You start to see what's always been there. Possibility, opportunity, life, the clarity that once felt so far away suddenly feels simple. Because it's been inside you the whole time, waiting for you to look inward instead of outward. You don't need to chase your next burst of motivation. You need to clear the space for it to find you. The noise will always be there. The distractions won't stop calling. But now you know better. You've seen what silence can do. You've felt its power. So the next time the world tries to pull you back into chaos, remember this. You are not unmotivated. You are overstimulated. And your peace is your rebellion. You can feel it, can't you? That restlessness under your skin, That quiet frustration that comes from knowing you're capable of more, but feeling stuck in the same loop every day. It's not because you're lazy. It's because you've forgotten what it feels like to be fully present in your own life. The noise has numbed you. The endless stream of stimulation has kept you busy but not fulfilled. You've been living on autopilot, mistaking movement for momentum. You're surrounded by information but starving for meaning. And deep down you know it. You can feel the ache of a life that's meant for more than reacting to everything around you. There's a reason you feel empty after hours of scrolling. It's because your mind was designed for creation, not consumption. Every second you spend chasing that next hit of stimulation, you're training your brain to fear silence. You're teaching yourself to avoid depth, to avoid reflection, to avoid the discomfort that could actually set you free. You think you need more motivation, more energy, more time, but what you really need is less noise, less clutter, less artificial urgency. Because clarity doesn't come from adding, it comes from subtracting. The more you strip away what doesn't matter, the closer you get to what does. Your mind is powerful beyond measure, but it's been hijacked. Hijacked by algorithms that study your attention better than you do. Hijacked by constant comparison that makes you question your worth. Hijacked by distractions designed to keep you numb enough to never change. But that power, the one buried under all the noise, is still yours. The second you reclaim your focus, you start to wake up. You begin to remember what it feels like to choose what you give your energy to. Because when you can direct your attention, you can direct your entire life. The truth is, you don't need more stimulation to feel alive. You need presence. You need to feel your life again, instead of watching it through a screen. You need to taste your moments, not just document them. The smallest details, the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, the silence before sleep, those are where life hides. That's where gratitude grows. That's where peace begins to rebuild your strength, but you've been too distracted to notice. You've been chasing things that were never meant to fill you. And that chase, it's what's been killing your drive. It's time to stop running from silence and start using it. Because silence isn't the absence of life, it's the doorway to it. It's the space where your deepest truths rise to the surface. It's where your intuition speaks, where your mind begins to heal. That's the place where clarity turns into direction, and direction turns into action. You can't pour energy into your purpose if every drop of your attention is leaking into noise. You have to guard your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Your attention is the currency of your soul, and every time you spend it on what doesn't serve you, you bankrupt your potential. You don't need to wait for the right mood or the perfect moment to change. You just need to start listening again, to the silence, to your breath, to the part of you that's been whispering beneath the noise. This isn't who I really am. That voice is right. You were never meant to be overstimulated, anxious, or drained. You were meant to be deliberate, aware, awake. The same mind that's been trapped in distraction is capable of unimaginable focus once you decide to reclaim it. And the moment you do, everything shifts. The fog lifts. The chaos fades. You stop reacting and start creating. Because the truth is, you don't find motivation. You build it through clarity. You build it through discipline. You build it through the quiet, unseen choices that no one applauds. And when you do, your energy changes. The same silence you once feared becomes your fuel. The same stillness that felt unbearable becomes your edge. While others drown in noise, you'll rise in peace. Because silence sharpens your focus. Focus builds your power. And power, true power, is calm. So take back your attention. Starve your distractions. Sit in the silence long enough to remember what it feels like to be alive. You don't need more noise to wake you up. You need less of it. That's where your strength lives. That's where your motivation hides. And once you learn to find it there, you'll never need to chase it again. You've been told to keep grinding, to keep moving, to never stop. But what if the very thing you think is progress is the reason you feel lost? You push harder, but the harder you push, the more distant everything feels. You try to focus, but your mind flickers like a broken screen, jumping from thought to thought, never resting long enough to feel real peace. This isn't a lack of motivation. It's survival mode. You've been running on overdrive for so long that stillness feels wrong, even dangerous. But the truth is, that stillness you fear might be the only thing that can save you. Because what you call laziness is actually your body begging for quiet. What you call procrastination is your mind craving clarity. You've been trained to believe that the cure for burnout is more effort, more hustle, more noise. But that's the trap. You're trying to fix overstimulation with more stimulation. You can't fight chaos with chaos. You can only dissolve it by stepping outside of it. And that's the part most people never do. They never stop. They stay trapped in a loop of urgency that leads nowhere. But you, right now, you have a choice. You can choose to unplug from the chaos that's been draining you and return to the simplicity that restores you. Because everything you're chasing will mean nothing if your mind stays exhausted. This is your wake-up call. The world doesn't slow down, and it won't stop stealing your focus unless you take it back. Every moment you spend distracted is a moment stolen from the life you were meant to live. You've forgotten what it feels like to think deeply, to feel fully, to exist without interruption. You check your phone like it's oxygen, but every scroll takes a breath away. You've mistaken stimulation for life itself, and that's why you feel like you're fading. But underneath all that noise, your mind is still alive. It's waiting. It's whispering, remember me. There is something sacred about being fully present. The world may call it boredom, but that space, that pause, is where your soul regenerates. That's where you start hearing yourself again. The motivation you've been searching for doesn't come from a screen. It comes from silence. It comes when you finally stop filling every second with something new and start listening to what's already inside you. The truth is, you don't need another motivational video. You don't need a list of habits or another productivity hack. You need to face the quiet long enough to hear what your life has been trying to tell you. Because once you do, you'll realize something powerful. Everything you've been chasing has been chasing you back. Purpose doesn't appear in motion. It appears in awareness. You don't find clarity by doing more. You find it by doing less, but with intention. You've been conditioned to think rest is weakness. But rest isn't giving up, it's charging up. Silence isn't empty, it's full of truth. Stillness isn't death, it's rebirth. Every great mind, every person who's ever done something meaningful, learned how to step away from noise long enough to see the world clearly again. You can't create your best life if you're too overstimulated to feel it. The mind that can master silence is the mind that can master anything, because when you stop reacting to every distraction, you regain your power to choose. You stop being a puppet to your impulses and start becoming the architect of your thoughts. That's where freedom lives, not in endless movement, but in the control of your focus. Imagine how powerful you'd become if you learned to direct your attention like a weapon, to cut through every ounce of noise until only what truly matters remains. That's not fantasy, it's discipline, it's awareness. It's the rare ability to be fully awake in a world that thrives on keeping you asleep. So start now, not tomorrow, not when you have time. Now, turn off the noise, breathe. Feel how loud silence really is when you stop running from it. That's your mind rebooting. That's your power coming back online. You don't need to chase motivation anymore. You need to remember it was never gone. It's been buried beneath 1,000 distractions, waiting for you to dig it out. This is your moment to take it back, to step out of the overstimulated haze and into something real. Because when you do, you'll understand the truth that changes everything. You were never unmotivated, you were simply disconnected. And now, you're finally awake. You've been taught to chase everything outside of yourself: success, approval, validation, distraction. But no one ever taught you how to sit still with your own thoughts and not be afraid of what you'd find there. That's why you run. That's why you scroll. That's why you fill the silence before it can speak, because silence forces you to face yourself. And facing yourself is the one thing the world has conditioned you to avoid. But that silence, it's not the enemy. It's the truth you've been too busy to hear. It's the place where everything you've been searching for already lives. Every time you run from stillness, you trade peace for noise. You trade purpose for stimulation. You trade the chance to feel something real for the comfort of something temporary. But deep down, you can feel it. The exhaustion, the disconnection, the quiet ache that comes from constantly reaching for things that never last. You tell yourself you're tired because you work hard, but you're tired because your soul hasn't rested in years. You're tired because your attention is scattered in 100 directions, and none of them lead home. You've forgotten what it feels like to be grounded, to feel whole, to wake up and not feel like you're already behind. The mind wasn't made to live in constant motion. It needs rhythm. It needs space. It needs moments where nothing happens, so something new can. But we've replaced reflection with reaction, rest with stimulation, presence with performance. We've mistaken busyness for purpose, and in doing so, we've lost ourselves. That's why you feel disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people. That's why you feel drained even after doing nothing. You've been pulled so far away from your center that you no longer remember what alignment feels like. And yet, something inside you is fighting to return there. You can feel it, the quiet resistance, the urge to pause, the pull towards something slower, deeper, more real. That pull is your spirit asking for freedom. It's not asking you to do more, it's asking you to feel again, to breathe without rushing, to move without comparing, to create without fear of being seen. The truth is, motivation was never something you had to find. It's something that emerges naturally when you stop overwhelming your mind. You've confused stimulation with energy. But true energy doesn't come from endless motion, it comes from deep presence. The more grounded you become, the more unstoppable you feel. Because when your mind isn't fractured, your power isn't either. The world will always try to distract you because a focused person can't be controlled. A calm mind is dangerous to a society that profits off your anxiety. They want you scrolling, reacting, doubting yourself, chasing approval. Because as long as you're doing that, you'll never realize how powerful you actually are. But once you detach from the noise, once you stop feeding the chaos, you begin to see the truth. The power was never out there. It was always in you. The focus, the discipline, the fire, they don't come from the world. They come from the silence you've been avoiding. That's where real creation begins. That's where freedom starts. You are not here to live as a reaction to everything around you. You are here to move with intention. You are here to choose what deserves your energy and what doesn't. The moment you reclaim your attention, your entire world shifts. The same phone that used to drain you becomes a tool. The same silence that scared you becomes a sanctuary. The same stillness you once avoided becomes your greatest advantage. Because when you master your focus, you master your future. The one who can sit in silence and not crumble is the one who will rise when others fall apart. So this is your turning point. Not a temporary burst of motivation, but a permanent awakening. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need permission to begin. You just need to stop running from yourself. Start small. One deep breath, one quiet moment, one choice to disconnect from what numbs you and reconnect with what moves you. That's how it starts. Not with noise, but with awareness. Because the moment you quiet your mind, your purpose becomes loud. The moment you step away from the stimulation, you start to feel alive again. And when that happens, there's no going back. You'll no longer chase motivation, you'll embody it. You'll no longer search for meaning, you'll live it. You were never unmotivated. You were overstimulated. But now you see it clearly. Now you're free.